The weight of promises. Part 1. I never intended to become the family's safety net. It just happened that way. My name is Daniel Cooper, and at 35, I run a small but successful architecture firm in Boston. The copper-plated sign outside our brownstone office on Newbury Street reads Cooper Designs, something I still can't look at without feeling a flutter of pride. 12 years of hard work, countless all-nighters, and a stubborn refusal to compromise on quality had finally paid off. On a crisp October morning, as golden leaves skittered across the cobblestone streets of Beacon Hill, I was reviewing blueprints for a waterfront development when my younger brother, Jason, called. "Danny. How's my favorite architect?" His voice carried that familiar enthusiasm that always preceded a request. "Busy, Jace. What's up?" I cradled the phone between my ear and shoulder, still marking corrections on the blueprint. "Remember how you said my photography shows real promise?" I did remember. Jason had genuine talent, raw and undisciplined, but authentic. Since dropping out of college 3 years ago, he'd bounced between jobs while finding himself through his camera lens. "I've got an opportunity, Danny. A real one this time," he continued. "There's this workshop in Santa Fe. All the major players will be there, Gonzalez, Whitaker, even Annie Chen." I set down my pencil. "That sounds great. The thing is..." His voice dropped. "The application deadline is tomorrow, and I need to submit a portfolio and the workshop fee." "How much?" I asked, though I already knew the answer would be more than he had. When he told me, I didn't hesitate. "I'll transfer it this afternoon." "You're the best, Danny. I swear, this is it, the turning point. When I'm selling prints for thousands at MoMA, you'll be the first person I thank." We chatted briefly about Mom's upcoming birthday before hanging up. As I transferred the money, I thought about the kitchen renovation I had been saving for. It could wait another few months. That evening, as I walked home to my apartment in the South End, I passed a gallery featuring emerging artists. Through the window, I saw families and couples sipping wine, admiring the artwork. I imagined Jason's photographs on those walls. His talent deserved a chance. My apartment welcomed me with the familiar comfort of solitude. Books on architecture and design lined the walls, interspersed with small mementos from my travels, a stone from falling water, a sketch of the Sagrada Familia, a miniature Chrysler building. As I heated leftover pasta, my phone buzzed with a text from Jason. "Thank you. You won't regret this." I smiled. I believed him. I always did. My mother called while I was eating dinner. "Daniel, you're too generous with him," she said after I told her about Jason's workshop. "He's got real talent, Mom. He just needs a break." She sighed. "You've been saying that since you paid for his first camera in high school. When does it end?" "When he succeeds," I replied simply. What I didn't say was that helping Jason felt like fulfilling a promise I had made to myself years ago, standing beside our father's grave. Dad had always believed in Jason's artistic spirit, even when it meant failing math or skipping college applications. I'd promised to look after him, to make sure he had the chances Dad would have wanted for him. Besides, wasn't that what family did? They supported each other. They believed when no one else would. At least, that's what I told myself as I fell asleep that night, beneath the gentle glow of the Boston skyline through my window. Part 2. 3 months passed. Winter descended on Boston, transforming the city into a postcard of snow-dusted brownstones and steam rising from manholes. I hadn't heard much from Jason since he'd returned from Santa Fe, beyond a few enthusiastic texts about connections he'd made and techniques he'd learned. On a particularly frigid Tuesday in January, as I was presenting designs to clients in our conference room, my phone vibrated repeatedly in my pocket. 5 missed calls from Jason, followed by an urgent text. Need to talk now. Life-changing opportunity. I excused myself during a break and called him back. Danny. Finally. Jason's voice crackled with excitement. You're not going to believe this. You know Elliot Rhodes? The photographer? The one who did that Time cover? Yes. He was a guest instructor at Santa Fe. He's been mentoring me since the workshop, and he just invited me to join his expedition to Alaska. A whole month documenting climate change for National Geographic. Pride swelled in my chest. Jason, that's incredible. I know, right? But here's the thing, I need gear. Professional grade stuff. Weather-sealed cameras, specialized lenses, extreme weather clothing. The amount he needed was substantial, more than double what I'd given him for the workshop. It would drain the remainder of my kitchen renovation fund and eat into my emergency savings. When do you need it? I asked. Yesterday, he laughed. But seriously, by the end of the week. I've already put deposits down on some items. I hesitated. You put down deposits? Before knowing if you could afford the rest. I had to move fast. These opportunities don't wait, Danny. Rhodes specifically requested me. Me? Do you know how many photographers would kill for this chance? Looking back, I should have recognized the pattern. The urgency. The deposits already made. The emotional leverage. Instead, I said, I'll make it work. Send me the details. That evening, as I transferred the money, my colleague and friend, Sophia, stopped by my office with takeout. Working late again? She set a container of pad thai on my desk. Just finishing up some transfers. I closed my laptop. Sophia knew me too well. Jason? I nodded. She took a seat, chopsticks hovering over her food. You know, I've never heard you talk about your own dreams, Daniel. It's always about the firm or helping Jason. The firm is my dream. Is it? Or is it the safe choice that lets you keep funding his? I bristled. That's not fair. He's genuinely talented. I'm sure he is. But talent without discipline isn't enough. And neither is opportunity without effort. She paused. When's the last time you did something just for yourself? I couldn't remember. The next few weeks passed in a blur of deadlines and client meetings. Jason texted occasional updates about preparations for Alaska, each message reinforcing my belief that this time, things would be different. Then came the Instagram post. It was from Megan, Jason's on-again off-again girlfriend. A sun-drenched photo of them on a beach, cocktails in hand, with the caption, "Surprise getaway to Cancun with my love." #blessed #vacation mode. I stared at the timestamp. 4 days ago. When Jason was supposedly in pre-expedition training in Seattle. My phone rang. It was my mother. Have you seen it? Her voice was tight. I'm looking at it now. I ran into Megan's mother at the grocery store yesterday. She was going on about how Jason surprised Megan with this trip. Used his photography money to splurge because his expedition got postponed. The revelation didn't hit me all at once. It seeped in slowly, like cold water through a crack. I need to go, Mom, I said quietly. That night, I sat in my darkened apartment, gazing out at the city lights. On my coffee table lay a stack of architectural magazines, one open to a feature on a young designer who'd taken a risk on an innovative public space in Chicago. I'd read the article half a dozen times, imagining what it would be like to pursue a project solely because it spoke to my creative vision, not because it was a safe commission. My phone lit up with a text from Jason, "Weather gear testing is intense. Miss you, bro." I didn't reply. Part 3. 2 weeks later, according to his social media, Jason had returned from his training. I hadn't responded to any of his messages, which had grown increasingly concerned. Everything okay? Did I do something wrong? Danny? I decided to confront him in person. We met at a small cafe near the public garden, neutral ground where neither of us could storm off easily. When Jason arrived, his usual easy smile faltered at the sight of my expression. Danny? What's going on? I slid my phone across the table, opened to Megan's Cancun post. How was Mexico? His face drained of color. I can explain. Please do. Jason launched into a convoluted story about stress and needing a break before the expedition, how the training had been rescheduled, how he'd planned to pay me back with his first National Geographic check. I let him talk himself into circles before asking, "Is there even an expedition, Jason?" His eyes dropped to the table. There was. Elliot did invite me. But it got postponed. Indefinitely. When? Before Santa Fe. The revelation hit like a physical blow. So there was never any Alaska trip? No National Geographic? Not yet, but Elliot said. Stop. My voice was quiet but firm. Just stop. The cafe continued its gentle hum around us, espresso machines whirring, muted conversations, the clink of spoons against ceramic, while my world tilted on its axis. I believed in you, I said finally. Every time. And I'm grateful, Danny, I really am. I just needed a vacation with Megan? Needed new camera equipment to impress your friends? What exactly did you need that was worth lying to me? He had the decency to look ashamed. I didn't think you'd understand. You're so together. Your life is perfect. I laughed, a hollow sound. Perfect? I live in an apartment with a kitchen from the 90s because I keep giving my renovation money to you. I haven't taken a real vacation in 3 years. I turned down a design competition in Chicago, a dream project, because I couldn't afford the time away from paying clients. Jason's eyes widened. You never told me. You never asked. A tense silence stretched between us, filled with years of unspoken truths. Finally, Jason spoke. So what now? Are you cutting me off? The question revealed everything. Not I'm sorry or how can I make it right, but are you cutting me off? In that moment, I saw us clearly for perhaps the first time. I wasn't helping Jason pursue his dreams, I was enabling him to avoid responsibility for his life. And in the process, I'd been avoiding responsibility for my own. I'm not cutting you off, Jason. I'm stepping back. I stood up. You're my brother, and I love you. But I can't be your safety net anymore. Danny, wait. I have to go. I have a meeting with a potential client. A public library project I've been wanting to pursue. As I walked out of the cafe into the bright winter sunshine, my phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. Did you register for the Chicago competition? Deadline's tomorrow. For the first time in years, I felt the weight of promises lifting, not just the ones I'd made to Jason and to my father's memory, but the ones I'd broken to myself along the way. I texted back, registering now. Part 4. Spring arrived in Boston with its particular magic, flowering trees lining Commonwealth Avenue, runners circling the Esplanade, and the city emerging from winter's grip with renewed energy. I felt a similar awakening in my own life. The Chicago competition submission had consumed my evenings and weekends for months. My design, a community space that blended sustainable architecture with elements reflecting the neighborhood's cultural heritage, had made it to the finalist round. Win or lose, the process had reignited something in me that I hadn't realized had dimmed. I'd also started renovating my kitchen, one weekend at a time. The slow progress was oddly satisfying, each completed task a small victory. Jason and I hadn't spoken much since that day at the cafe. He'd sent a few texts, mostly surface-level updates about a part-time job he'd taken at a local print shop. I responded politely but maintained my distance. Then one rainy April afternoon, the bell above my office door jingled, and there stood Jason, soaked from the downpour, holding a large flat package wrapped in brown paper. "Hey," he said, uncertain. "Got a minute?" I gestured to the chair across from my desk. He sat down, placing the package carefully on his lap. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," he began. "About what you said." "About everything, really." I nodded, waiting. "The thing is, Danny, I never saw it as taking advantage. In my head, I was just accepting your support because that's what you always offered. I never stopped to consider what it cost you." Rain pattered against the windows, filling the silence between his words. "Anyway, I wanted to show you something." He handed me the package. "It's not much, but it's a start." I unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a framed photograph, a striking black and white image of our office building at dawn, morning light catching the edges of the copper sign, the architecture rendered with unexpected sensitivity. "I've been working on a series," Jason explained. "Boston through my brother's eyes. The way you see the city, its bones and possibilities. I've been showing it to some galleries." I studied the photograph, genuinely impressed by its composition and emotional resonance. "It's really good, Jason." "Thanks." He shifted in his seat. "There's something else. I've been saving. From the print shop job and some freelance work. I want to pay you back." He slid an envelope across the desk. Inside was a check, not for the full amount he'd taken for the fake Alaska trip, but a significant portion. "It's the first installment," he said. "I'll keep paying until it's done." For a moment, I was speechless. This wasn't the grand gesture of someone seeking quick forgiveness. It was the measured action of someone beginning to take responsibility. "I appreciate this," I said finally. "It means a lot." "There's more where that came from." A small smile tugged at his lips. "The gallery thing, it might actually happen. A place in Cambridge is interested in my Boston series." "That's great, Jason." "Truly." We talked for a while longer, about his job, my competition entry, our mother's gardening obsession. The conversation was different than before, more equal, less dependent. As he was leaving, Jason paused at the door. "I miss you, Danny." "I miss you too. Sunday dinner sometime?" "My treat. I make a decent pasta now." I nodded. "I'd like that." After he left, I stood by the window watching the rain sweep across Newbury Street. I thought about the photograph Jason had given me, how he'd seen beauty in this building that represented so much of my own journey. My phone buzzed with an email notification. The subject line read, "Chicago Competition Finalist Interview Request." A rush of excitement filled me. Whether I won or not, I was pursuing something that mattered to me. I was honoring my own dreams alongside supporting others. Later that night, as I put the finishing touches on my kitchen backsplash, a mosaic of blues and greens that reminded me of the ocean, I realized the true lesson in all of this. Kindness without boundaries isn't kindness at all, it's abdication. True generosity requires honest assessment of what you can give without diminishing yourself. The weight of promises can either anchor you or drown you. The trick is knowing the difference. I stepped back to admire my handiwork. The kitchen was coming together nicely, not perfect, not finished, but progressing. Like me. Like Jason. Like the complex, imperfect bonds of family that break and heal and transform over time. Outside my window, Boston glittered in the rain, a city of possibility, of history and future intertwined. My city. My life. My choices. For the first time in years, they felt truly mine.